My name is Lalit Soni and I welcome you all in this live session by Drishti IAS. So today we will be looking at Indian Express and we'll start with the today's newspaper, and then we'll look at three important articles from the day, and then we'll see some miscellaneous article, and after that we'll look at some world affairs, then practice questions. We'll discuss the practice question which was given to you in the last class, and then we'll wrap up the session. Okay, so let's start. This is the front page of newspaper. Here there are three important news. One is this, that is to curb fraud. 4 hours delay in your UPI payment will be there if the amount is more than 2000 rupees if you are going for the first transaction with any person. Okay, then there is this US and Canada issue which has been surfacing because of the allegation of killing of Nizar, that is Khalistani separatist, and other than that the allegation of a conspiracy against that separatist named Pannu. Okay, so ultimately our envoy has said something, we will discuss that. Okay, after that there is this simple article wherein one information is important, we will take up that. Okay, so let's start with the first article, that is your alleged assassination plot, that is the US report says so. Okay, and on the basis of which we have said that we'll be examining that particular thing, and our envoy has said that US inputs legally presentable, got nothing specific from Canada. So basically there are questions raised why there is this differential treatment when we are talking about USA versus Canada when the issue is nearly the same. Okay, so our envoy has said that Mr. Sanjeev Kumar Verma, Indian High Commissioner to Canada, he has said that the information which has been provided by the USA, or the input which has been provided by USA, was specific, they had a content to it. Okay, on the other hand, when we are talking about Canada, they just simply put an allegation, they did not provide any kind of specifics. Okay, so ultimately that led to differential treatment when we are talking about USA and Canada. Okay, here he said that the data which is being given by US was legally presentable. Okay, so you can say there were concrete data on which you can go for any investigation, and based on that particular data, investigation has started in Punjab sector by NIA. Okay, so that is one thing. Other than that, in this USA report, they have said that Indian connection referred to not to any government of India, but to some people from India, or you can say some let's say antisocial activities in India. Okay, so or antisocial elements from India. Okay, and this allegation is not on the government. Okay, so that is another thing. Okay, Delhi said that it took such inputs seriously, and these were already been examined by the relative departments. Okay, other than that, those inputs are a nexus between gangsters, drug peddlers, terrorists and gun runners in USA, and some of Indian connections are there. Okay, and that connections are not from the government side but from the people. Okay, now when I say Indian connection, I don't mean government of India, but there are 1.4 billion people living here, out of which there can be some Indian connections. Okay, and then they asked why India was not operating if it had no role in Nizar's killing. Canada has asked for the cooperation of India, and India said that we will not because these allegations are absurd. Okay, so ultimately for that question, the High Commissioner has responded that, so there are 2 points they are considering. One is that even without investigation being concluded, they convicted India or they allegated on India. Okay, so there was no concrete proof on that. Second thing is, they are saying that they did not give any specific or relevant information in that we can look into. Okay, so considering all these factors, we are saying that is why we have taken difference in approach when we are talking about US and Canada, because of the diverse nature of the allegations and diverse Indian response. Okay, now we'll move further. From the front page, there was this news, that is to curb fraud, 4 hours delay likely in the first UPI transfer over 2000, because recently there was some banking fraud which has been resurfaced, and there was one Kolkata based bank on which there was some technical glitch or some kind of erroneous activity, because of which some loan was transferred in the books, but that money was never transferred. Okay, so ultimately they are saying that there are some kind of issue related to the payment or digital payment mode. Considering that, now the authorities are saying that we are going for a new regulation, that is 4 hours delay likely in the first UPI transfer. When we are talking about a person who is paying let's say a person A to a unknown person B. If this person is unknown and it is your first let's say transition, hold on a second. Okay, so if we see that this person is unknown, or let's say even if it's known but that is your first transaction, in that case there will be a 4 hours of delay if the amount is more than 2000 rupees. If amount is less than that, no doubt that will be instant transfer, but if amount is more than 2000 rupees, there will be a delay of 4000. Here they are saying that the plan is not to just delay or limit the first transaction upon account creation, because that is already been taking place. When we are talking about digital transfer, etc., let's say NBFC or there are other modes like IMPS, RTGS, all these things. Considering that there are already some norms of 24 hours or adding the beneficiary, after that there will be some cooling off period, and after that that transaction will proceed. Okay, so the here plan is not to delay or limit the first transaction, okay, which is already happening in some form or other, but regulate every first transaction between two users irrespective of their independent past transaction history. So ultimately they are saying that we are going to regulate the first transaction, okay, since there are times when people are unknown, or there might be a possibility that you may have transferred the money to a wrong person. Okay, so considering that, they will regulate the first transaction. Okay, other than that, when we are talking about banking frauds, there are let's say here you can see the government has planned to introduce a 4-hour time window, which we have discussed. If the amount of money transfer is more than 2000 rupees between two individuals in a digital payment. This digital payments can include your RTGS, IMPS or UPI payments. Okay, so any kind of digital payment, if it is there more than 2000 rupees, there will be a 4 hours delay. Okay, this measure aims to mitigate rising online payment fraud by regulating initial transactions covering various digital payments like UPI, IMPS, RTGS. Okay, then the proposal does not just delay the first transaction upon account creating, but regulate all initial transactions between users regardless of their past transaction history. Okay, so ultimately this is not to delay or something, this is just to regulate. Okay, this initiative will discussed, they will be discussing this particular initiative in a meeting involving government bodies, banks, tech companies, and like Google, Razorpay, etc., and the RBI. Obviously, that is obvious, because RBI and NPCI basically control all the digital transactions. NPCI. Okay. The move is in response to the significant increase in the digital payment fraud. As I told you, this is because of the digital payment fraud, or which has resurfaced in Kolkata based bank facing technical issues, lending to credit of 820 crore through IMPS without actually receipt of the money. Okay, so basically this is a huge amount, 820 crore. They have gone for a loan, but they did not receive the money. Okay, so that is one thing. Other than that, there are some fraud amounting to 30,000 crore rupees that has happened because of this digital payment frauds. Okay, so ultimately what we are doing is, when we are talking about this particular fraud, there are 49% of this particular thing is because of the digital payments only. Okay, so now what we are saying, that these digital payments has some kind of lacunas, or the regulation of these digital payments has some kind of lacunas, and that is why we have to go for stricter norms over here. The trigger for the formal discussion arose after a recent case involving Kolkata based bank facing technical issues, lending to the credit of 820 crore through IMPS without actually receipt of the money. Okay, so now this Department of Financial Services are planning a meeting of all the stakeholders, and they can discuss this particular initiative. Okay, so that is about this article from the front page. Then Mahatma Mahapurush of last century, Modi Yug Purush of this. Okay, that is not important for us. The thing important here is that there is one name that is been mentioned here, that is Srimad Raj Chandra. Okay, so basically you must have heard this person's name, Gopal Krishna Gokhale. He was a freedom fighter, and this person is considered as the political guru of Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, now when we are talking about Srimad Raj Chandra, he is considered as the spiritual guru of Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, since it is in the news, and this was the birth anniversary, and they have mentioned it it in the article. UPSC might have asked this political guru question, so they might go for this spiritual guru. So you might remember this particular name. Okay. So moving further. Starting December 1, Indians will not require a visa to visit Malaysia. So there has been this trend wherein Sri Lanka, countries like Sri Lanka, Thailand, and now Malaysia, they are going for this visa free visits. Why? Because these particular countries are mostly having an economy which is based on tourism. Okay, and after COVID, there was a decline in the their tourism or their economic activities related to tourism, okay, and hospitality, hotels, etc. And now after COVID, they are trying to regain in that particular area, and that is why they are going for such initiatives. Okay, earlier Thailand has done the same, then Sri Lanka has done the same, and now Malaysia is doing the same. Okay, and why they are doing it for India? They are doing it for other countries like China also, because they know that they have a huge market available here. Okay, so here you can say India emerged as the largest source market for outbound travelers in Asia in 2022. Okay, so India, since India has a huge population, okay, that is why, and mostly people travel around the nearby countries. If they want to go abroad, there are chances that they will be visiting Bhutan, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Myanmar, all these things. Okay, so ultimately that is why they have gone for this visa free entries. Okay, when we are talking about India, the top 5 destinations for Indians are UAE, Saudi Arabia, USA, Singapore, and Thailand. You can see, other than USA, all these countries are in the neighborhood of Indian Ocean, you can say. Okay, so that is about this article. They have gone earlier, gone for we have the such agreements with Sri Lanka and Thailand. Now we have this particular thing with Myanmar. They have also provided this thing for China as well. Okay, India and China are among Malaysia's top 5 source market for tourism. So basically that is why this particular article was in news. Now issue here is not why we are discussing all these things. Now what we are discussing here is that these countries like Malaysia and Thailand, these countries are quite important for us. Okay, now when we are talking about Thailand, we are going for the IMT trilateral highway, because we are going for the regional connectivity. Okay, and when we are talking about Malaysia and all these countries are part of ASEAN. Okay, and we have this policy, that is Act East policy, and under that particular policy, these countries are important for us, and they are important for the development of northeastern region of India. Okay, so that is why we have taken this article. So moving further, Kamala comes to Bangalore. How buffalo race's popularity outruns the ban. So basically Supreme Court has put a ban on Kamala earlier. Okay, and in 2016 these particular states has gone for some notification and change in the their legislation to ultimately allow this Kamala again. Kamala is basically a, you can say it's a folk activity, or you can say cultural activity in the people which are locating on the coastal region of the Karnataka. Okay, when we are talking about Bangalore, why this is going to Bangalore now? Because Bangalore is not on the coast, but the thing is because of some activities which has been happening, like you can say it was popularized earlier in the Kantara movie. Okay, in that particular movie there was scenes, the first scene was shown, that is from the Kamala. Okay, so Kamala is basically a buffalo race, which is there are some different type of 4 category of Kamala, in which there are buffaloes will be running, there will be race, and there will be a jockey. Okay, and they will be guiding the buffaloes over there. Okay, so there are different ways they will be guiding it through a plow, or maybe there were ropes, etc., or there will be a wooden plank on which that jockey will be still, and the buffaloes will be running. So all these things are different categories, but right now here for us important thing is the legal issue. Here animal rights are the legal issue involved here. There was this petition in the Supreme Court, wherein it was said that there were ropes which has been tied to their nose. Here you can see these are the ropes which has been tied to the nose of the buffalo, and then ultimately there will be quite a whipping. A whip will be used by these jockeys to make them run. So all these things are you can say as the animal cruelty, and considering all these things, Supreme Court has said that this particular activity should be stopped, and they put a kind of ban over here. Here we can see So Bangalore hold its first Kamala race. Okay, since I told you this particular folk art is basically part of your coastal area in Karnataka and not in the mainland of the Karnataka, but ultimately they have started in Bangalore also because of the this is particular thing is getting famous and they wanted to attract the crowd and fund some kind of economic activity around here. Okay, Kamala has in the past been banned by the Supreme Court, but Karnataka government, keeping its popularity in mind, amended legislation to allow the race to go on. Okay, so ultimately this particular thing, when we are talking about these animal issues, these are part of your concurrent list. So if they can change it, they can make a legislation over there. Okay, what is Kambala? It is a folk sport. Okay, of the coastal district of Karnataka. Okay, or otherwise you can say, if we are going for the specifics, it is a folk sport of Tulu speaking people. This is a language from the Dravida origin. Okay, so this is a sport of Tulu speakers from the area of coastal Karnataka. Okay, so ultimately they do it after the paddy is harvested. Okay, they celebrate the paddy harvest, and under that they go for this such races of buffaloes. Other than that, there are other events like that in part of southern India. There are you can say, you must have heard the name of activities like let's say, hold on a second, I would say it here somewhere. Okay, so there are some activities like Jallikattu. Okay, you must have heard of all these things. That is, one is bull races, bull fights, then Jallikattu, then Kambala. All these things are present in Karnataka, Gujarat, even in Punjab like areas. Okay, all these things related to somewhere, there is a clash between the legality of, or you can say the issues related to animal cruelty and the culture of that particular region. Okay, so ultimately in that particular case, Supreme Court has put a ban on this particular thing, but then that has been outlawed by their local legislations or notification. Okay, so ethical treatment of animals had filed a plea against all traditional sporting events, complaining about the animal abuse. Okay, the complaint against Kambala was that buffaloes' nose are tied with a rope and animals are whipped continuously during the race. This is this amount to cruelty, and Supreme Court has ruled a ban to Jallikattu, Kambala and bullock cart racing in 2014. And then in 2016, there was Environment Ministry issued a notification saying that there were some exceptions are made, saying that bulls might be continued to be trained as a performing animals at events such as Jallikattu in Tamil Nadu, bullock carts races in Maharashtra, Karnataka, Punjab, Haryana, Kerala, Gujarat, etc. Okay, but they have given that there should be these are kind of practicing the traditional under the customs. Okay, that is why they have made this particular exception. They have subjected it to a certain condition that this suffering of the animals will be reduced. Okay, and after that even state government has gone for some kind of amendment in the Prevention of Cruelty Against Animals Act to provide for such events to continue. Okay, so that is Kambala. You might have heard about this Kambala and Jallikattu. This can be important for your prelims as well as mains also. Okay. And now, if we are talking about these world affairs, Israel Hamas extended truce by 2 days. Okay, so earlier they have gone for the 4 days humanitarian pause, which has been brokered by the countries like USA, Qatar, and Egypt. And now they have basically increased it to 2 more days, that is 6 days truce now. Okay, that is important for the aid supplies, etc. But considering the amount of people displaced, the supplies which are not in the adequate manner. Okay, so that is why they have gone for the 2 more days of truce, and here they have said that they will also release some prisoner and hostages, but the number was not discussed in this particular agreement. Okay, moving further. China foreign ministers to lead UNSC meeting on Gaza, okay, and humanitarian crisis. So basically on that particular part of Gaza humanitarian crisis, there will be a meeting which is to be held under UNSC. So that right now when we are talking about the presidency of UNSC, it is under China. So that meetings will be held under China, and China's foreign minister will be taking over this particular meeting. And now they are saying that China, as I told you, China currently holds the Security Council's presidency. China says that the contribution to elevating the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and ultimately promoting a comprehensive and just lasting settlement of the Palestine issue through a two-state solution. They are also recognizing this two-state solution. Okay, ultimately when we are talking about long-term peace in this particular region, there can only be one solution, that is this, that you have to provide for the state to Palestine as well, and security to Israel, or you can say Jews areas. Okay, and China has joined Arab states in calling for a ceasefire. Okay, and now when we are talking about Arab states and European Union, they have also agreed at a meeting of Mediterranean nation that two-state solution was the answer to the Palestinian or Israeli conflict. So ultimately they are also saying that this is the solution now. Okay, so we can see that in future, if we are considering to maintain peace in this particular Middle East region, two-state solution is the lasting solution. Ultimately we have to go for this only, and Israel has to understand this. Okay, so that is about this particular. Okay, China calls for truce in Myanmar, says will continue border drills. Okay, so when we are talking about Myanmar's borders, we can say that China has the longest border with Myanmar, and considering the Myanmar's condition right, current condition, there is a situation of civil war going on, because in Feb 2021, they have the military of Myanmar has replaced the democratic government over there, and they have said that there was some kind of electoral fraud, and because of which they replaced them and they came into power. There are some ethnic groups which are active in Myanmar because of their own identity related rights. So they are saying that, or they are saying that this particular military junta, or the government run by military, they are against it. Okay, and now they are supporting the opposition, or you can say the people who are behind the this particular democratic government, etc. And now they are going for a war against these military junta. Okay, so let's have a look at the civil war condition in the Myanmar. The conflict involving various ethnic groups and the military, it escalated after the military coup in February 2021, when the military seized the power from the civilian government. Okay, and cited a reason that there was electoral fraud. Okay, ethnic armed groups historically active in different regions intensified this resistance against the military junta and joined forces in the opposition to the military rule. So ultimately now this democratic government, people belonging to that particular government, which are basically right now most of the leaders are in jail. Okay, they have joined hand with this particular ethnic groups, and now they are struggling against this military junta. Okay, because of which there are some kind of humanitarian crisis going on. There are warlike situations there are civil war going on in Myanmar, and because of which there are displacements of people from that particular area. The conflict had led to a humanitarian crisis, displacing thousands of the civilians internally and driving many to seek refuge in the neighboring countries. Okay, whenever there is a war-like situation, when we are talking about Palestinian, Gaza-Israel issue also, so most of the people, because of the Gaza attack, they are moving towards the areas like Egypt, because there is only one possibility over there. Okay, so ultimately all the burden of these refugees will fall on the neighboring countries. When we are talking about this Rohingya issue, that was also started in Myanmar, only Rakhine state of Myanmar, and that these Rohingyas was also looking for the neighboring countries like Bangladesh and India. Okay, India said that we will not be taking the refugees from this particular state as we already have people to feed, and because of which they have been displaced mostly to the Bangladesh, and then Bangladesh has gone for a separate island for them to kind of settle. Okay, so ultimately whenever there is a war-like situation or any kind of ethnic cleansing, if you can say, such burden will be on the neighboring countries. Okay, right now when we are talking about Myanmar, this burden of this particular thing is on China right now. Okay, so China is being very cautious about it, and China is saying that there should be a ceasefire. Okay, between these military people and the ethnic groups which are struggling for their own power. Okay, so ultimately here you can see, this is the map of the region. this is Myanmar, and Myanmar has a boundary with, you can say, India, okay, and then it has boundary with China. Other than that, Laos, Thailand, okay. So when we are talking about the longest boundary, here you can see this is with the China, okay. So ultimately, and when we are talking about this issues which has been going on, this is mostly in the Shan state, okay. This is the broader picture of Myanmar. This is in the Shan state, and Shan state has the longest boundary with China only, okay. So ultimately they will move towards China, and because of which there are situation which is out of control on the border areas. This particular ethnic groups has took control of nearly 4 to 5 border gateways from where the trade was basically the trade between China and Myanmar was taken place on these particular points, and they have taken control of that. So if we can say de facto, there is control of there is no formal trade between China and Myanmar as of now, because all the points in the Shan state has been controlled under this ethnic groups, okay. So that is the case. This is Shan state, and this is the having the longest boundary with China, and that is why China is now saying that we want a truce in Myanmar, okay. So let's see what China has to say. Beijing called for a ceasefire in Myanmar after coalition of ethnic fighters seized several crossing along Myanmar border with China, okay, and because of which China has gone for the live firing drills on the both side of the frontier, or you can say on the border area. China is going for the drills, and China is saying that until there is a ceasefire, we will continue to go for these border drills, okay, because ultimately they are looking forward for their own borders, okay. On the side of the frontier aimed at the testing the mobility, border control abilities, and the firepower capabilities of the military units, so that the People's Liberation Army is ready for any kind of emergency. If at all there is some kind of emergency related to these refugees moving towards China, they can take care of that, okay. Myanmar heavily relies on the trade with China, because obviously if they have a longest border with China, and that is why they will rely on trade with China. They import manufacturing goods and export agriculture products to China. Unrest in Myanmar border region has been constantly irritant to China, okay, because obviously if your borders are stable, it will somehow irritate you. And when we are talking about this particular area on LAC, we are basically quite irritated about China, because China is doing this aggression over our LAC, and now China is being irritant because of this Myanmar refugees over there, or say ethnic insurgents which are working for their own independence in the region, okay, which nevertheless backed the military leaders who seized the power in Southeastern Asian nation in 2021. So basically earlier China has supported this military government or military junta in Myanmar in taking over the power, okay. So now these ethnic groups are kind of not in favor of China, okay. China is highly wary of this conflict spilling over the shared border, and other than that, China is worried about this drug trafficking, human trafficking over there, and there are this some you can say organizations which are going for the cyber attacks, okay. So China is highly concerned about all these things, and there are cyber crimes or cyber attacks or cyber crimes which are targeting the Chinese people over there, and China wants these people to bring them back to China and then prosecute them there, okay. And these particular cyber crime things which are basically happening from Myanmar, okay. So they are saying that cybercrime targeting Chinese people has become major concern, and China has pushed hard to eliminate the groups based in Myanmar and other countries, and to send the perpetrators to back to China for the prosecution. So ultimately these are all the things, that is cybercrime, border trafficking, border instability, people or human trafficking over the border. All these things are irritating the China right now. China is highly concerned about the conflicts in Myanmar and has urged all the sides to cease fire and start peaceful dialogue to prevent the situation from escalating further, okay. So all these things has been in news, and ultimately we have seen the Shan state that they have taken most of the trade points from the military's control, okay. When we are talking about Myanmar, there are few important things which can be important for your exam, that is Rakhine state. As I told you about the Rohingya issue, So that Rohingya issue was, like 4 to 5 years back, but the thing is that started from this particular Rakhine state. That was an issue of ethnic cleansing from this particular area. And then there is this important thing, that is IMT trilateral highway, India, Myanmar, Thailand trilateral highway. This is for the regional connectivity of this particular area. Okay, so it start from India, then Myanmar and to Thailand. Okay, so Mae Sot in Thailand, More in Myanmar, and then in India. Okay, so all these things are for your prelims related informations. Now let's see the practice question which was given to you in the last class, that is, which medical condition is characterized by the accumulation of amino acids. We have discussed some few rare diseases for which there are drugs being is to be produced in India and make them affordable, and under that there were 4 to 5 diseases we have discussed, that is Wilson's disease, trisomia type 1, Gaucher's disease, and Dravet syndrome. Okay, so out of which condition is because of the accumulation of amino acids in the liver due to absence of a specific enzyme leading to severe liver conditions. So basically your answer is this trisomia type 1. In this case what happens is there is a enzyme which gone missing, or that is not available to break the amino acids in the digestion process, because of which these amino acids basically accumulate on the liver and ultimately damage this particular liver, and gone there can be a severe liver diseases. Other than that, when we are talking about the Gaucher's disease, that is because of the fatty deposits. Wilson's disease is because of the copper deposit, and then trisomia type 1, I told you this is because of the amino acid deposit, and then Dravet syndrome, it is basically a genetic epilepsy syndrome. Okay, that is because of the genetical reasons. Okay, so that is about the practice question which was given to you in the last class. So let's see the practice question for today's class. Which country shares longest border with Myanmar? Options are A Thailand, B China, C India, D Bangladesh. You can attempt this question and answer in the comment box. Okay, so let's see the question for mains. Discuss the geopolitical implication of the recent civil war situation going in Myanmar on its neighboring countries, and how might this conflict impact the regional stability and international relations in the southeastern region. So when we are talking about, let's say we have seen things for the China. Okay, you can mention impact on India. When we are talking about impact on India, as I told you, there are some infrastructure projects. Okay, some trade related activities. Whenever there is a region which is under war like situation, all these economy and polity will kind of get impacted. Okay, and all the focus will be on the war and not on the developmental activities. Okay, so that is one thing, and you can see that there can be an impact on IMT. Okay, all these things you can say from the Indian perspective. Other than that, you can here you can talk of the issue of refugees. Okay, and then when we are talking about this in relations to Southeast Asia, so you can say all these connectivity projects like IMT, etc., that can get impacted. These connectivity projects are basically for the regional development, or you can say economic development. So ultimately it will harm the developmental activity in the south eastern region. Okay, so that is about today's session. We'll wrap up the session here. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day. Thank you.